Today we have two saints you should know who were actually martyred 1 year apart from each other. The first saint you should know is Theresa Benedicta of the Cross, also known as Saint Edith Stein. Now, she was born to a Jewish family in what is now modern-day Poland, and at age 14 she decided she no longer believed in God. But she was intrigued as she grew up by philosophy, especially this newer philosophy called phenomenology, of which John Paul II was also a fan. And so she became a very powerful philosopher and well-known philosopher in her time and lecturer. But at age 31, she read a biography of Saint Theresa of Avila and was so enamored with her story that she ended up converting to Catholicism and was baptized and joined the convent. And she became a Carmelite sister and taking the name of Theresa. Now, she became a well-known lecturer at Munich, which won the attention of the Nazi Party. And she was a lecturer for about 12 years before going to the Netherlands, where during World War II she was rounded up during a time where they were rounding up Jewish people who had converted to Christianity, and was killed in the gas chamber along with her sister at Auschwitz. She's an example of someone who was just going about living her life when called upon to live extraordinarily, to do extraordinary things, to stand up for the faith. The second saint we celebrate today was martyred a year later in 1943 by the same regime. His name is Blessed Franz Jägerstätter, not yet saint, but on his way to becoming a saint. And you can learn about his story in one of my absolute favorite movies, a stunningly beautiful movie called A Hidden Life, where you can actually rent it on Amazon if you want. And Franz Jägerstätter was a simple farmer in what is now Austria. And he grew up there, lived there, was living a life as a farmer, a devout family and person, and married his wife, and they had three daughters and lived on the farm. In fact, in the movie, they used his own farm and where he grew up and lived as the backdrop for the movie. And he was drafted into the Austrian army, but part of that was you had to swear an oath to Hitler. Fortunately, his terms of service kept getting deferred, but he was called upon eventually to serve in the army. And he had this huge crisis of conscience because he would have had to swear an oath to Hitler, and which went against his faith. And so he sought counsel from his parish priest and his bishop, who unfortunately encouraged him to go and serve and to not just to go ahead and say the oath to Hitler. But he knew in his heart that that wasn't right. So imagine him seeking guidance from his faith and not finding it from the people who should be his faith leaders. And so he was eventually jailed and was beheaded. But during his time in prison, he writes these unbelievably gorgeous letters to his wife, which are woven throughout this movie that I referenced. These letters about his tremendous faith and their faith in helping and encouraging and supporting each other to live a life centered in Christ and to do the right thing even when the rest of the world around them was saying that they were crazy for believing it. These two people who were just going about their lives, striving to be holy, striving to live holiness and be the best version of themselves, if you want to say that, striving for sainthood, in the midst of this extraordinary situation, extraordinary circumstances, they show us how ordinary people are, like you and I, are called to be saints, and how we really see saints in these extraordinary moments of life. And I think they also are a great summary of our first reading today from the prophet Jeremiah, who in this vision, God stretches out to him a scroll that has words written on it of lamentation. And he eats the scroll, sort of like both of these figures swallowed this difficult pill of suffering and did it for the glory of God, and showed us also the power of the human spirit when it's put in God's hands. So today, maybe we look to these two great examples, St. Theresa Benedicta of the Cross and Blessed Franz Jägerstätter, to help us as we continue to speak the truth with love in our world today.